This is Part 5 of the Grazing 101 Riparian Areas and Grazing Management presentation. Here, we talk about holding pastures and corridor fencing, including grazeable corridors, as strategies and techniques for managing our range and pastures to maintain healthy riparian areas and improve ones that might be less than healthy. This is the final segment of the full presentation. Holding pastures are generally areas where livestock are held or parked for extended periods, like winter feeding grounds, calving areas, or small acreage areas that house a horse or two all year. Normally, a supplemental feed is provided, since holding pastures should not be considered food sources, but rather holding areas. On the McDougall's Ranch, the Permy Creek is a spring-fed system that is a key spawning stream for brook trout before it reaches the Elbow River. Hard-surfaced access, supplemental feeding backed from the stream, and directing livestock to upland areas are the keys to maintaining the riparian area. The field is used as a holding field for 65 to 70 cow-calf pairs immediately after calving, providing excellent shelter and helping reduce the threat of scours in the new calves. Here is the Permy Creek showing healthy vegetation communities and well-vegetated stream banks. Supplemental feeding occurs back from the stream to reduce pressures in the riparian area. Whether it be natural or artificial, hard-bottomed access to water, if watering directly from the stream, is critical. The last option we'll talk about is corridor fencing. This involves eliminating livestock grazing along a narrow fringe of the riparian area. Corridor fencing works well in areas where land holdings are small, use is intensive, and options are limited. In acreage properties like this, 1 or 2 horses may be too many. Notice that 5 or 6 properties are converging on the creek in a very short distance. In the mid-1980s, the Ferrises fenced a section of Todd Creek. Because they winter cattle in the fields next to the creek, at the time, the Ferrises found it was the best way to protect the riparian area. Looking back now, Hilton Ferris says if he had to do it over again, he would make some changes to the fence design. Hilton would rather have a wider corridor that would have not only been cheaper to build, but would allow him to periodically graze the area. As you can see here, the buildup of old grass inside the corridor is becoming a concern. The accumulation of litter can hinder normal growth of some vegetation species and create heavy competition for some shrubs or trees to get re-established. It may also pose a fire hazard. In this aerial view, you can see that a wider fenced area would allow for periodic grazing, and this is a grazeable corridor. When reintroducing grazing into a corridor, these things need to be considered. Grazing should be temporary and use may not happen every year. The corridor isn't a place to park livestock, so use should be short and not more than a few days. Multiple entry and exit locations will help distribution in the narrow corridor, and avoid the vulnerable periods of spring and fall, and use only after riparian recovery has occurred. Management options are like a giant toolbox. Searching for the right tool might take a little time and some tinkering, but in the end, with so many choices, you are likely to find the one that works. It is the choices you make on how to manage the land that really determine how your land will look, as this fence line contrast illustrates. Thank you for listening, and thanks to all the Cows and Fish funders and supporters for their commitment to stewardship and riparian health in Alberta. More information on Cows and Fish programs can be found on our website, www.cowsandfish.org. You'll find much about riparian ecology and grazing management, including the Caring for the Green Zone, Riparian Areas and Grazing Management booklet. You'll also find information on community-based stewardship, our contact information, and donation opportunities. The other segments of the full presentation are also available on our website.